welcome to the Monday evening.
You love ball like I do. After Dark's a must listen.
It's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Welcome to another Super Saturday night edition of the Field of 68 After Dark, DTF style tonight. I'm John Fanta. We've got Rob Dalster here. We've got the sharpshooter Terrence Oglesby here. And here we go on a Saturday, fellas, that was absolutely loaded, absolutely stacked. I mean, Terrence, you just said that you don't even know what game you're watching at this point. That's how many games that you consumed of college hoops. These are the days that we live for, fellas.
It absolutely is. I'm so dizzy. It feels like Cooper Flagg dropped 40 3 weeks ago. Yet at the same time, it was only a few hours ago. Top to bottom, one of the best days we've had so far. Not on Feast Week, obviously, but one of the best days we've had in college basketball thus far this season. Conference play in full effect, and you get to see the strength of each and every league. And the SEC guys, what I've started to notice is the tiering, quote unquote, if that's even a freaking word. The word tier in general has been really mean to me, but the tiering of each team within that league has really started to separate itself, whether it's Kentucky going to Mississippi State and getting a win, Alabama going on the road, Texas A&M getting a win. You're starting to see the differences between those teams in that league, and I found that really intriguing. And then you've seen also some fantastic individual performance, which I'm sure that we're going to get into.
We will. Rob, your favorite parts of this fine Saturday before we get to our headline tonight?
I thought the SEC nightcaps were absolutely unbelievable. Kentucky has played some of the most entertaining basketball games we've ever seen. Texas A&M seems to find a way to make comebacks no matter what happens. And guys, Mountain West late night hoops is back, baby. We got a tie game, Boise State, Utah State in the Spectrum, 2 minutes and 47 seconds left. Tio, I know you're with me. There's nothing better than late night Mountain West basketball.
I'm fired up about it, and I get to go to Logan later this month. I'm all kinds of juiced up. Utah State, really good team. Mason Falslove's a dude. Love that guy.
Yeah, he is. They're really, really good. And New Mexico won earlier today. They are red hot in the Mountain West. But we begin tonight in the Southeastern Conference because there is a team in the SEC and in that loaded SEC that now has 4 wins over top 12 ranked net teams. No one else in college basketball can say they have more than 2. So this team has double everybody else. It's Mark Pope. It's the Kentucky Wildcats. And on another Saturday where it's one story for Kentucky in a new era and another story for the man who used to be their head coach before leaving, all you can think of is what a glorious time for Big Blue Nation, because on this night, Kentucky scores 95 in Starkville. How refreshing it has to be for BBN. 95 points against an elite Mississippi State defense. Jackson Robinson, fantastic. Ansley Almanor comes up huge, the FDU transfer, showing off why you portal, why you get gems from the portal. Final score, Kentucky 95, Mississippi State 90. Kentucky is 13-3, as we just said, 4 wins over the net top 12. Rob Dalster, Kentucky's shown us a lot throughout the season. What do you say about this win?
It's just another example of somebody else stepping up and making big shots and somebody else stepping up and taking a game over. And this one, it was Jackson Robinson early in the second half that made a whole bunch of threes that was able to get Kentucky a little bit of separation. You had Lamont Butler hitting the game-winning shot at the end. You had 3 straight threes from Ansley Almanor, like you mentioned, Fanta, to kind of give Kentucky a cushion after Mississippi State made a little bit of a run. The thing that impressed me the most, and Tio, I don't know if you caught this, there was a point midway through the second half where Kentucky kind of got beat up physically a little bit. Andrew Carr had a rebound ripped away from him that led directly to an RJ Melendez 3. And then 2 possessions later, Amari Williams had a rebound kind of ripped away. Maybe he was fouled, whatever it was. He had a ball that was in his hands, and then it ended up being Mississippi State ball. They make a 3 on the ensuing possession. There's a foul on the rebound, and then after they take it out of bounds, there's another 3 from the corner. So that ended up being a 6-point possession. They had 9 points that they shouldn't have gotten based off of Kentucky giving up rebounds that they shouldn't have given up. And that's the kind of thing that you can see torpedo a game. That's the kind of thing that you can see break the back of a team. And it didn't on the road. It didn't coming off of a loss. Like I was just really, really impressed with let's call it the intestinal fortitude that this Kentucky team showed tonight on the road in a look. Starkville was Stark Vegas tonight, man. That building was crazy. Kentucky fans get a little riled up about that. They say that every road game they play is someone else's Super Bowl. Well, that's what happens when you are Kentucky. Okay, you're going to have to deal with it. That's why you go there. Super impressive win. I thought it was really, really nice to see Jackson Robinson kind of break his slump a little bit.
Are you guys ready for me to be negative? I'm not usually negative in the first segment, but I'm about to be.
Do it.
How about the fact that if they can't score 80 points, I'm worried about Kentucky. This defense is not good enough right now. And it's not just this game. They're 15th in the SEC through 3 games in conference play. Throughout non-conference play all season long, 87th on KenPom defensively. The games where they've scored less than 70 points, 0-3. So if their offense isn't working, we got problems. And guys, there's not going to be many nights when their offense isn't going to be working. There's too many weapons there. I'm a little bit shocked that the team defensively isn't much better than what they are. And the reason I say that is simply because you have Lamont Butler, who's one of the best point guard defenders in college basketball. You have Amari Williams, who's one of the better 5-man defenders in college basketball. You have Otega Oweh, fully capable of locking somebody down. And that offense is special. And it's been special all season long. I'm worried about defensively. If you go into the tournament or you go into the SEC tournament and somebody slows something down and they're able to defend you, how are you going to respond? Can you get stops consistently? And they went up against Mississippi State. And guys, look, Mississippi State's really good this season. They're really good. Like 90 points, a lot of points. And it's not just this game. They beat Florida at home. Would they score? $107? I can't remember exact score right now. No, 106. So Georgia slows them down. They score 69 points. They get thumped by 13 away from their home. They go to Clemson, 70-66. They slow the game down. I love Kentucky's team offensively. Can they manufacture enough stops? That's my biggest concern. And look, guys, love Kentucky, love Mark Pope. That zoom action offense and everything everybody has raved about is awesome to watch. When it comes to nut-cutting time in tournament play, not just SEC tournament play, NCAA tournament play, can you freaking get it done? And Fanta, you don't know what nut-cutting time is. That's whenever you got to castrate some bulls out at the farm. That's what that means. When it's nut-cutting time and you have to really put your foot on the gas, can you get it done defensively? And I'm not sure that Kentucky can get it done defensively just quite yet. They haven't proved that
Wait a
yet.
minute. I think I'm just going to say this. And then Rob, jump in. Last year, Alabama, their defensive efficiency, and they made it to the Final Four, was sub 100. I mean, they were at 111. The year before, Miami made a Final Four with a defensive efficiency of 99. Kentucky's at 87. So you might be able to get to the Final Four. You might be able to get to San Antonio without cutting any nuts.
Well, you still like to be able to rely on nut cutting.
Hey, here's what I'll say, though. I'd rather have Kentucky's offense than Tennessee's defense.
I agree with that 100%. And Tio, you are 100% correct. I just think that so they don't force a lot of turnovers. That's my big thing, right? Amari Williams, we talked about this a little bit last week. Amari Williams was an elite defender at the CAA level. And then now that he's at the SEC level, I don't think that the athleticism advantage that he still has. And now he's just like a good defender instead of being one of the best defenders that you're going to find at that level, right? I would like to see them try to force some more turnovers because they're not going to have elite rim protection, right? And they do a pretty good job of running teams off the 3-point line. They just don't really end possessions by turning you over and getting a bunch of easy buckets at the other end. I think that's the key for them. But I'm not really worried about that in terms of them getting to a Final Four. I think they can win 4 in a row. Winning 6 in a row and being able to beat 2 good teams in San Antonio is going to be a difficult thing to do if you can't take that next step on the defensive end. So I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth when I say that. But yeah, a lot of fun to watch, man. At the very least, we know if they make it to San Antonio, we are going to get some exciting, because that's all this team plays. They just play exciting basketball games against good teams. If they play someone bad, then they get their ass kicked. That's the problem.
Utah State hit a 3, forced a turnover. They just took the lead on a go-ahead lay-in, 77-76 with 30.9 seconds left. Drama. It's on CBS Sports Network if you want to go multiple screens with us here. Here's the thing, Rob and T.O. Let's start with you on this, T.O. I understand what you're saying. I totally agree with you, because at the end of the day, Alabama and Miami didn't win national championships. So they made it to the Final Four. We are now talking about Kentucky as a national championship contender in year 1 of the Mark Pope era. And that's because they are. They have depth, they have experience, they have balance, they have a different guy on any given night. Kobe Bryant did this last week. Jackson Robinson did this tonight. And I look at it.
Hey, Kobe Bryant did it the other day. Kobe Bryant went nuts, I want to say, against Florida. Like, it's always somebody different. What happens with what happens when the water's shut off? That's my concern.
No, forget that right now. Because to me, this is another moment for this program. If they could score 95 in Stark Vegas against Chris Jans and Mississippi State, they could do it against pretty much anybody. And they've done it already. I mean, they just did it last Saturday against Florida. I think let's look at what this team is in year 1 of the Pope era. Terrence, they're 13-3. They own more quality. They own more quality wins. We'll get to it in a second, Rob. More quality wins than anybody in college basketball. Like, Terrence, go big picture for a second. Did you foresee this in year 1 of the Mark Pope era to this degree? And how has it gotten to this degree? How has it gotten this good?
I did think they would be this good for what it's worth. I think I picked
you thought they would be a top 10 team.
Yes.
Yes.
From day one, I thought that was the case. I did think that. I'm just, look, they're going to be a top 10 team all season long. They're going to win games because they can score so much. But on days where you can't score 90 points, that's my concern. I think they're a top 10 team. The only problem is the NCAA tournament is a one-off, so it could be a struggle. It got this way because we all knew Mark Pope could coach before he ever got to campus. We knew he could coach at BYU. He did a fantastic job there. Now he goes to Kentucky. He gets his pick of the litter in terms of the transfer portal. And not only did they identify good transfer, they identified transfers that fit together remarkably well. So did I think this could happen this year? Absolutely I did, because there was no holdover. I'm pretty sure he even switched over the managers, because I think Cal took him with him to Arkansas. That's not working all that well. Congratulations, Kentucky. I'm talking about a one game off. They go down to Clemson, they get beat because they can't defend. Like that's kind of where I'm at. I think they can get to a Final Four. My biggest concern is I don't think they can guard. But I did think they were a top 10 team, and I stand by that moving forward.
If they make a Final Four, they haven't made a second weekend of the NCAA tournament since 2019. If they make a
Final
Four,
would be great, dude. Joan, what's the guy's name at Big Blue Nation? Like Matt would be fired up, like fired up. Like Rob, Matt Jones would be thrilled.
Rob, I want to break down the ingredients of the formula. Like, how is Pope doctored something up that's this good, this soon, this refreshing for BBN?
I think it's really smart identification of what he wants in terms of his system, right? Like, you look at Amari Williams and his ability to pass. Everyone wants to talk about what he is as like a defender and a rebounder and all that. It's his ability to kind of operate as the facilitator at the high post that allows this offense to run the way that it runs, right? Or the back doors that he could throw, the dribble handoffs, the different actions that you can put him in because of his skill at that spot. I think it is getting guys like Lamont Butler and Otega Owe that are two-way players that are going to be able to buy into what you want to do.
We have seeds in Logan. The Utah State, they just convert on a 4-point play.
The spectrum is rattling right now. The spectrum is vibrating. You know what I love?
This happens for the win. It's long. Utah State is 16-1, 81-79. A 4-point play won the game.
Yeah.
That
All right. We'll
place
get
is
to that. We'll get to that in a second. But I will say this. And it's all, you know what I love? It happens a lot in European soccer where like the camera starts shaking in big moments. And it was just happening with Utah State. That was awesome. Just to wrap up the conversation on Kentucky, like he did an incredible job of identifying the pieces that will fit into what he wants to do and then finding ways to get those pieces to work in the offense that he's trying to put together, if that makes sense, right? Like it's talent identification, it's role allocation, it's getting guys that can buy in, it's all of these things combined. And oh, by the way, he's got a bunch of different guys that can go off every single night. Like Andrew Carr won him the game against Duke. It was Kobe Bryant that won him the game against Florida because he went nuts, right? It was Lamont Butler hit the game-winning shot tonight, and Jackson Robinson. It's just you have so many different weapons that it allows you to be able to be unexpected on the offensive end, and you combine what they run, and it puts all of these things together. And the last thing I'll just say, T.O., in terms of the defense, like I think they're good enough where when they can keep it close, they can get a stop on a big possession, right? Like if they're able to get their offense coming, because Lamont Butler is a great individual defender and Otega Owe is a really good individual defender. And like they have individual pieces that allow them to get stops. The concern that I have is that they're not going to be able to win a game for 40 minutes with their defense. So if they have a night where they go like, I don't know, like 6 for 23 from 3 or something like that, then you're going to see what happened against Ohio State. You're going to see what happened against Georgia, where they kind of get run a little bit, if that makes sense.
You better hope they don't play a Big Ten team. You better hope they don't play Purdue. You better hope they don't play. Like I'm serious. I'm serious. Like a well-scouted team that's going to slow you down. They better hope they don't play a Big Ten team.
All right, last point, and then we're moving on. This can be quick. Are you willing to say, Terrence Oglesby, that Kentucky is a top 3 team in the SEC?
It's close. I think I picked them 4th. Right now, absolutely.
Okay, wait, over who? Over who? Because it's Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama. You have them over one of them.
I'd have him over Tennessee. Looks like he's going to be out for a month. I would put them over Auburn now that Broome's out.
I would have them over 10.
Like right now.
Let's just assume that Johni Broome comes back healthy at some point this season, right? So we're talking about maybe potential championship, whatever. I would have them 3rd behind Auburn, Alabama, or Auburn and Alabama. And I would have them above Tennessee right now. You said it earlier. I trust Kentucky's offense more than I trust Tennessee's defense. And you know, if Chaz Lanier isn't going off, I have questions about the balls. But that's a different conversation.
Well, then let's go there, because we were going to head to Duke, but before we do that, let's go right to Auburn, since this is the toughest news of the day in college basketball. Is Johni Broome has a rough sprained ankle. Jeff Goodman was in Columbia to watch Auburn beat South Carolina 66-63. What was a great game. I mean, credit Lamont Paris and his Gamecocks. They fought till the very end. Auburn overcomes. They find a way in the midst of an injury to their best player, the National Player of the Year, front runner. We'll get to the National Player of the Year race here in a moment. It sucks for Broome. You know, he goes down with this injury, but Auburn wins the game. Miles Kelly comes up with 14. Tahad Pettiford clutched the free throw line. He comes up with 15. Auburn finds a way. But the Broome injury, Rob, how does this impact things? What's your reaction to what occurred with Broome, and what now happens to Auburn big picture?
Well, one, it freaking sucks, man. Like, I'm glad that it seems like I'm saying, doing air quotes here for the people listening, like it's just a sprain. But the way that it was termed was a significant sprained ankle, which I mean, those things, even if you're out of, like, even if you're out a month, like that's the kind of thing that can linger and be like a pain tolerance thing. And the good news is Broome, like there's not a lot of the quickness, the quick twitch stuff. Like the thing that makes him special is because of his size and kind of his mobility and his touch and his ability to kind of read defenses. So that makes me a little bit more bullish, but man, it sucks. And hopefully they can get a scan and it doesn't look as bad, it doesn't come back as bad as it looked in the moment. But if I'm an Auburn fan right now, the way that I'm thinking about this is, all right, let's get him back with a couple weeks left in the regular season so that he can gear up, be ready to go in the SEC tournament, and we can have him in March to kind of make a run. Because this team is built to win a national title this year, guys. Like this is in my mind, the
And they're
best team in college
America.
basketball. Yeah. Duke is really close, like a lot closer than I think people want to give them credit, but they are the best team in America. They have a very, very real chance, if healthy, to win a national title. But I mean, that's a big if at this point. And then when you're in the SEC, look at their schedule coming up, man. You get Mississippi State at home. You're at Georgia, who just beat Oklahoma and Kentucky in that building. Then you get Tennessee at home, LSU, Mississippi on the road. Mississippi looks really good. Oklahoma at home. They're still a top 25 team. Florida at home. Like, it's murderer's row every single freaking night in that league. And now you're going to be doing it without your best player. T.O., I will say this. Having Dylan Cardwell to kind of slide right in there at the 5 and the amount of big athletic dudes that they could put at the 4, like, I don't think that this is the kind of thing where it torpedoes their season. But I do think that it's a significant injury, and it really changes who they are without Johni Broome on the floor.
It changes their postseason trajectory. And before I get onto that sprain looked brutal. And for those of us who have sprained an ankle and then automatically you get woozy and lightheaded, that one looked every bit of it. And his entire body weight went on that ankle. So pending that nothing serious has happened, and it is just a serious sprain, we're looking at 2-3 weeks where you're just going to be sore on top of sore on top of sore. And he's not a young freshman where his body's just going to pop right back in. So it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get back if it's just a significant sprain. It really does stink. And I do think that, Auburn has enough talent to still finish. They've still got a lot of games left, guys, in conference play. They still, they could still finish in the top third of the league if he has to miss the rest of the season. And I hate to even throw that out there, but it kind of is what it is right now. But what you really hope is you can get him back by February 11th. You play at Vanderbilt. Like, that's a month away from today. Can that happen? And can you get some momentum moving forward into the SEC tournament and past that, the NCAA tournament? But, this team has enough talent. They've shown that they can have different guys score on various nights. It is a huge miss. You can't run as much offense, at least with him as the point of attack, finding passes. They love this little Iverson cut curl that ends up for layups every time. I'm not sure why teams continue to chase this thing, but it's because Johni Broome's such a good passer, the ball can get there. Nonetheless, it does change the way you have to play a little bit, especially they have an offensive coordinator there who CJ Moore just wrote a great piece on, who does a really nice job putting them in spots. But a lot of those times he's benefiting from Johni Broome being such an able passer wherever you put him on the floor. So they're still good enough to win a lot of defense.
Like when you have the focal point of your defense that's gone, like he's the first name on the scouting report. And whenever you're game planning how to stop the number one offense in college basketball, which is what Auburn is right now, the first thing you got to do is, okay, we got Johni Broome here who's putting up these points, and he could do this in the post, but he can make threes, and he can pass like this, and they run this, and they do that, and they do that. And when you take that away, it just means that everybody moves a step up on those scouting reports, and it's easier to guard because you don't have to manufacture ways to help in certain areas, or this is when we got to dig down, right? Like it changes what you do defensively, and it makes them easier to guard. And I don't think it'll be easy to guard.
I don't know if it makes them easier to guard off the first 3 games. I think Mike Burgermeister, that's who I'm talking about, Burgermeister, who is the offensive coordinator at Auburn. I don't know that it makes them easier to guard. I think, if anything, it makes them a lot less predictable. But it also makes them a lot less predictable for their own coaching staff, too, because they do have Todd Pettiford and some of these guys that can really be spark plug type players. So how do you guard them? It's still going to be tough because they have so many capable scorers, kind of how I was
Here's
referencing.
my take.
But he's a big loss.
Here's my take. Johni Broome has been the best player in college basketball, bar none. He would win National Player of the Year if you gave it out tonight. He would. Auburn is the best team in the country. I know what you're thinking about National Player of the Year. We'll get to that.
I think bar none strong.
Yeah,
he would win.
That's the only thing I'm bucking is the bar none.
He would win it. He would win the award. Auburn's the best team in the sport with him. They are a top 10 team without him. And I still think it'll show. And what you hope is that take all the time you need, Johni. Take all the time you need. What if Auburn loses 4 of 5 and people go and write them off? Remember, they're playing in historically the greatest conference we've ever seen in this sport. Ever. They can swallow some lumps. UConn lost 6 of 8 2 years ago. People wrote them for dead. The NCAA tournament, if provided Johni Broome has a healthy ankle, Auburn has 6 players averaging in double figures. They will be okay. They need to hold serve at home. And if you take some road losses, it is what it is. But you have an elite atmosphere. Yes, it does throw a damper on the Auburn-Tennessee game, which is January 25th, a little bit. But Auburn's going to be the home team for that game. And that place is still going to be on fire. And they still have enough. That backcourt is really difficult to guard. That's where I agree with T.O. Like, how much does it have to change how you guard them? They're still damn hard to guard. When Pettiford's on, Baker Mazara gets cooking, Kelly gets cooking, they're deep. But Johni Broome, where my heart aches for him tonight, and he won't admit it, is that for a guy who, okay, if you want to disagree with me and say he'd be second in National Player of the Year tonight, you could disagree. And we're going to get to him right now because we got a couple minutes left in our A block. But my heart aches because he's not going to win National Player of the Year now. It's not going to happen. You can't miss a month of your season and win it. All right, let's turn to the guy who maybe is now the biggest threat to do it. And maybe has moved into the chair. Only 3 people in the history of men's college basketball could say that they won National Player of the Year as a freshman. Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, and Zion Williamson. Yeah, nice list. Today, Duke is in action against Notre Dame. Duke wins 86-78. Cooper Flagg, 42 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, and a steal. He had 42 points on 11 of 14 from the floor. Terrence Oglesby, put in perspective what we are watching right now.
Well, I also want to keep this. Notre Dame's not great this year, and that's a program that's on the rise. It's just going to take a second. But I was so freaking impressed by how he was able to score in so many different ways. He started out the game, couple left corner threes, catch and shoot, didn't matter. He was going to figure it out. We already know what he can do when he attacks a basket. Thunderous dunks. Second half, they tried to go a little bit smaller on him. What did he do? Put his back to the basket and was able to back his defenders in and find ways to score. Oh, you have to switch again? Let's go ahead and put a bigger player out there on him. I'm going to pull him out away on the perimeter, and then I'm going to drive right past him. I don't know how you guard him. I think people forget because he is a little bit lean that, like, dude's every bit of 6'9", and he runs so graceful and he gets to spots. And one thing I noticed today that I hadn't necessarily noticed, I've noticed it, but it just really stood out today. Changing levels for him is so easy. And what I mean by that is if he has somebody on him and he's playing in the post and he's playing straight up, he dips his shoulders underneath the defense's shoulders and he's able to get by. He gets down low so quickly and he's still able to cover ground so quickly. He just is able to control everything the defense does. And man, it's amazing how many different ways he was able to score today. And he got 16 for 17 from the free throw line. I don't know what you do. And here's the thing, guys. He's probably the most willing passer on the roster. And he still ends up with 42 on 14 shots. It's insane. And you said bar none, but a player of the year. I think if they voted today, I think there'd be a handful of voters that would lean Cooper Flagg's direction just because of that type of performance.
That's true.
Absolutely mind-boggling.
Okay, who would win it, though?
And right now, Johni Broome would probably win it. I think if you polled all the media members that vote, Johni Broome would get 75% of the votes. I think even if he played with the way that this thing is going and frankly, the level of the ACC, I think that in a month, that would probably be closer to 50-50 just because of the numbers he's going to put up. And the thing about it is we've talked before about Cooper Flagg on the show about how he's better than the numbers that he's putting up. And he's better than the highlights that we have seen. Because frankly, until the game against Pitt, there really weren't all that many highlights that he was he didn't have those explosive moments like the Sports Center top 10 play moments. He's had a couple of those in the last 2 games. He hasn't had the huge blow up games, 23 here, 22 there, solid numbers, but nothing's that's going to sit there and make you say, oh, Cooper Flagg did what? Well, he had 42 today, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. I think what makes him so good is the stuff that doesn't show up in the box score, and his stuff that's showing up in the box score now and the highlights that he's getting are things that are ridiculous. So he's only going to get better from here. And I hope that this kind of quiets a little bit of the crowd that is starting to push like, yeah, you know what? He's not that good. I don't know if he's going to be the number 1 pick. I don't know if he's going to be this. Like, guys,
those people need to shut up. Those people need to shut up, Rob.
He's supposed to be a high school senior. He just turned 18 literally 3 weeks ago. He's supposed to be a high school senior, and he's doing all of it. Like, what are we talking about, man? The kid's ridiculous. No, I don't know what else you can say.
Okay, if you are out there and you are saying that he hasn't met your expectations, you're an idiot. Go to bed. I mean, honestly. And then listen to this video tomorrow morning when you wake up, have a warm glass of milk, and calm yourself down. This kid is absolutely extraordinary. He is absolutely the number 1 pick in the draft in June. Dylan Harper started to make a little bit of an ascendance and make that a bit of a race. If you are an NBA general manager, you cannot not take him number 1. He is, first off, we're not even talking about how he defends. This is all happening while he is taking on whatever the top defensive assignment is and just doing it. His wingspan's through the roof. His feel for the game is beyond its years. Now, offensively, and I'm not sure if Jon Scheyer said anything to him at a certain point, but the way that recently things have gone, it's a combo of he's 18, and he just turned 18. He is otherworldly. Now, somebody either got in his ear or he figured out the fact that, guess what, Cooper? You're not 2 or 3 on this Duke team. You're number 1, and nobody's going to be mad at you for playing that way. Keep the basketball and go, brother. His ability to attack the rim is second to nobody. You can't stop him. He's a freight train. His efficiency has gone up. It's gone up since high school. You scored 42 points as a freshman, and you did it on 14 shots. You get to the free throw line, you make free throws. Mm-hmm. Folks, what we are watching right now is absolutely historic. It's not just good. It's not just great. I think that he and Duke can win it all. It's not even the furthest thing from a hot take. Like, folks, Jon Scheyer and Duke can win their first national championship since 2015. And if that happens, honestly, I'm disappointed in the media machine. Not us. We've been talking about him all year. I think there's a lot of people missing right now. This kid's the best thing happening in the sport. He's a freshman. He had 42 today. I don't care if it was against a school for the blind. He didn't against Catholics. What he just did against Notre Dame was utterly insane. Get on this train. If you're not on it at this point, never come on it, because I think he's phenomenal. Is he like this hateable Duke player? No, he's not heavily emotional on that front. Like, he's not. But he's a damn great player, Rob. He's a damn great player. He's better than that, and he can win. I would pick him right now to win National Player of the Year. He's going to win Freshman of the Year, and that's only been done 3 other times in sports history. And the last time it was done, Rob Dolster, we were talking about Zion every morning. Start talking about Cooper Flagg's greatness every morning. It's almost like because he made a damn mistake in the Champions Classic that people toned it down and thought he's not as good as we thought. He was 17 then. Give the kid a break.
Yeah, well, I'll say this too. T.O.'s been on this bandwagon since I think you probably said this the first day of the season, that by the time we get to February, Duke's going to be the best team in college basketball. Well, T.O., I got a spoiler alert here for you, man. We're in the middle of January right now, and no matter what you look at, whether it's KenPom, whether it's Torvik, whatever the metrics are, like, the difference between Duke and Auburn is really not all that much right now in those metrics. And what Duke can do defensively, like, we're talking about injuries. Hopefully what happened with Malik Brown and his knee is not serious. Scheyer he seemed a little concerned about it afterwards, but Malik Brown's ability to allow Duke to switch everything 1 through 5. When you have 6'5" Tyrese Proctor, and you have 6'7" Con Knipple, and you have 6'9" Cooper Flagg, and 6'9" Malik Brown, and 6'6" Sion James, who looks like he's built like a wrestler. When they can switch everything with that lineup, the athleticism they have, and the defensive playmaking they have, like they're scary, man. They're really, really damn good.
We've got a break, but what Cooper Flagg is doing, America, it is absolutely unbelievable. Up next, we continue around the Southeastern Conference. How concerned are you about the Arkansas Razorbacks, who are over thus far in SEC play? What has gone wrong for Arkansas? What do we make of their start to conference play? Tennessee on the road in Texas. Rick Barnes returns to a previous stop. What happened there? Plus, we go around the Big Ten. The Muss Bus rolling into Champaign. And at Madison Square Garden tonight, well over 18,000 saw something quite special. We'll talk about that and much more. This is After Dark.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. John Fanta, Rob Doster, Terrence Oglesby. So get this. In the SEC, Auburn, Ole Miss, and Alabama, who we're going to get to right now, are 3-0 in the conference. There are 5 teams at 0-3. Oklahoma, Arkansas, LSU, Texas, and South Carolina. But let's get to the 3-0 Alabama Crimson Tide, who tonight go on the road against a Wade Taylor-less Texas A&M team. We do have to bring that up. Wade Taylor is an All-American candidate. He's a tremendous player. Alabama beats A&M 94-88. Cliff Amore in this game gets banged up, but Alabama scores 94 and they win. Mark Sears goes for 27. At one point, T.O., there was a possession where he took 3 threes and he hit the third one. The Crimson Tide are 14-2. Tell me why you love it. Tell me what you love about the Tide.
Just the audacity of Mark Sears, who started off pretty slow this year. Big on audacity. And here's the thing, too. Like, Alabama's been this. They're the fastest show on hardwood for the past 2-3 years. It's been awesome to watch. And now they have that offensive firepower finally starting to click a little bit. And LeBaron Philon didn't even play that well today. And he's been spectacular all season long. Like, whenever you go on the road in the SEC, it is not an easy trip. And Buzz Williams' team, that's a tough bunch of dudes. And the thing is, Alabama forces you to play at their pace. And it's amazing to do because I have always said, like, it's easier to slow the game down than it is to speed it up. Alabama has no problem speeding it up, and it doesn't matter who they play against. It's pretty remarkable, really. But kudos to Zurich Phelps. I think he's a really nice player. 9 for 29. That's in the absence of Wade Taylor IV, obviously. You're going to have to take some more shots, but it kind of is what it is. Like, you missed that big of a piece. If you're Texas A&M, it's going to be hard to beat Alabama, number 5 team in college basketball. But Alabama, like, getting 94 points in a day, they didn't really shoot the ball all that well. Just the pace is unbelievable, and they keep going and going and going.
Yeah, Tio, I said this to you the other day, right? We were talking about Alabama, and I don't remember if I said it on the show or if we were just texting, but I said they get they shoot 50% of their threes from beyond the arc, and they get shoot 31% from three, and they get 40%.
Hold on. You said 50% of their shots from behind the arc is what you meant, right?
Yeah. 50% of their field goal attempts are from beyond the arc. They shoot 31% from three, and they get 40% of their offensive rebounds. Should I be worried about this stat? And you said, no, just go look at how many of their possessions they actually score on. And the one that you're referring to, Fanta, Mark Sears shot a three. They get an offensive rebound. They immediately kick it out to Mark Sears, who shoots another three. They get the offensive rebound. They immediately kick it out to Mark Sears again, who shoots another three, and he makes that one. That is Alabama basketball in the year of our Lord 2025, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And I think you got to give Mark Sears some credit, man. He didn't just start the season slow. Like, we were all kind of jumping off the bandwagon a little bit. Like, he went scoreless against Illinois. He had another game where he shot really poorly. I think it was it Purdue? He had another game early in the season where he just did not look all that good, and Alabama did not play all that well. Well, in the last 11 games, he's averaging almost 22 points. He's had more than 20 points in 9 of those 11 games. He had 27 tonight against Texas A&M. He's kind of figured it out here. And when you put Mark Sears and the shot making, the decision making, and the playmaking alongside a team that's got a bunch of guys that can make threes and a whole bunch of dudes that are going to crash that offensive glass, and they're actually playing some defense this season. Look, Alabama's like, I know where they're ranked. I know what they are in KenPom. I know all of these different things. Alabama is one of the 5 best teams in college basketball, if that, and they can very much win a national title this year. They're back, man. They're here to stay.
They're effectively tilting the floor like a pinball machine. Whenever you play against it, because they crash the offensive glass like that, they're leaving the ball on that end of the floor, and they're just like, well, if we throw it up there, we'll have somebody at least go get it. And I love that. And that's kind of what Trevor Booker was for our Clemson team, Raymond Sykes. That's what they would do. They would just attack the offensive glass and let guys fire away, and it works. It works, and today it worked too. But, hey, look, Texas A&M had 23 offensive boards. So somebody, like, something had to give.
Well, and Nate Oates said this after the game on Cliff Amore, who battled through the injury that he had, with his ankle. Nate Oates said a lot of guys would have just sat that one out after they rolled their ankle like he did. He manned up, wanted to play, wanted to be there for his teammates. He ends up with 10 rebounds in 16-plus minutes. You can't say enough about that. That's culture right there. That's that possession where Sears takes the 3 shots. Do you know there's a lot of teams out there where teammates of Sears would get pissed the hell off that he did that. But they're like, we could keep riding this kid. But to me, Rob, and then we'll move on, it's Chris Youngblood with 14. It's Aiden Holloway with 15. It's the point that you just made about their wealth of backcourt talent and different guys who can step up for them. It's a gutsy effort by A&M without Wade Taylor. A&M's going to be fine. But I am going to deliver this take, is that when I look at Auburn without Johni Broome, Tennessee, I can't unsee what happened earlier this week in Gainesville. I'm just being real. Like, I think that if you're talking about 1A and 1B right now, it's Alabama and Duke for me in this very moment. And I know where Alabama's ranking is, but the way that team's come around defensively and tweak some things, they played such a hard schedule. Like, everything that we said about Alabama, Rob, in the preseason, now we're seeing it with this team. That we thought they would be right back in the Final Four if everything went right. They look that part. I have a hard time believing that they're not in at least the Elite Eight. Yeah,
look, you make threes, you get offensive rebounds, you guard, you got a great point guard. They've been there, they've had that experience. They're going to be awesome.
This ball's on Rocky Top, man. I'm not ready to just throw them away. Look, they've been beating the brakes off of teams. All
right, let's talk about them. Perfect.
They got
Perfect
their head.
segue.
They got their head kicked. They got their head kicked in one game down at Florida, and quite frankly, boys, they were due because they were beating the. They were beating the brakes off everybody. Louisville by 22. They beat Virginia by 22. Baylor they thumped by 15. Miami 13. Syracuse 26. Hold on, and then they beat Arkansas by 24. Then they got thumped. And you put your tail between your legs, you take one, and that's fine. If they lost their first game on January 7th, they haven't gone anywhere. They just had a really bad shooting night in a tough place to play in the O-Dome. The whole place smells like a freaking swimming pool. So it's a hard place to play.
Does it?
No, it does. The swimming pool's in the arena, so I'm not like talking out of turn here. Their competitive swim team is in the same place. That's the reason it smells like a swimming pool. It smells like chlorine. It's humid as hell in there. It's true.
I am not talking about.
I believe you. This is why we love having you on the show. This is why we need
you guys got to get to Gainesville.
I believe. No. Listen.
Where else would you get insight like that? You would never get insight like that anywhere other than Field of 68 After Dark from Terrence Oglesby. That's it. The only place in the world.
I believe you. But at 11:46 p.m. Eastern time tonight, the people that are still awake can appreciate this. I am not touching or talking about the Florida swim team. Tennessee won at Texas 74-70. Rob, what was your biggest takeaway on the Volunteers finding a way in Austin?
That they did it on a night when Chaz Lanier did not look like All-American Chaz Lanier. And it's the second time in a week that he didn't look like the guy that he was for the first 6 weeks of the season. And I don't know if that's a concern, because I don't think Tennessee can be what they need to be or what we want them to be without Chaz Lanier being the level that he was for the first 2 months of the season. Even with Zakai Ziegler playing the way that he did, even with some of the other pieces they have, I think that they need Chaz Lanier to be All-American caliber Chaz Lanier to be able to hit that level. So that was my big takeaway. I know that Rick Barnes, you sent a quote in our group chat, Fan. I don't know if you have it in front of you, but Rick Barnes did comment on that after the game, right? He almost pulled him for not shooting.
Okay, so here we go. He sure did after this game. Rick Barnes, after the win. Come on and find this on your stupid.
Real quick, while you're looking for it, I'll just say
here it is. Here it is on Chaz Lanier. On Chaz Lanier, he says, Rick Barnes, blunt about taking Chaz Lanier out after not doing what he's, quote, paid to do. Barnes, I told him, I said, T.O., I can't wait to get your thoughts on this. If you're not going to do what you're getting paid to do, you sit over here, because he's getting paid to do that. I mean, Rick Barnes said what a lot of coaches are thinking, Terrence.
He's got some charm to him to where he laughed after he said it. So it was like, I guess it's okay. So to me, it is okay. I got no problem with what he said.
Yeah.
This is a fifth-year guy. He's getting paid a lot of money, had an off game, impact the game in other ways. Yeah. Or park it over there. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Simple as that. I'm also, look, he's in a bit of a rut right now. He's being scouted out. They're really defending him. And they're just sitting on him, and they're like, well, if you can get all the way to the cup and finish over people, we're going to live with that. None of these 1-2 dribble pull-ups or what you're accustomed to. We're going to make you do other things. So that's that. Tennessee wins in the Rick Barnes Bowl. Good for him. Look what he's done at Tennessee, and look what Texas has done over the last X amount of years. Just saying. Mm-hmm. Kind of been the same thing. Look what Shaka Smart's done up at Marquette. Look what's happening. I don't know that Texas has enough firepower not named Trey Johnson to make the NCAA tournament. They're 0-3 in league.
I agree.
And they're going to have to turn things around if I'm Longhorn fans, because that Moody Center is going to be bumping. But we all know that's a bit of a front-running crowd. Like, if you're losing, there ain't anybody in there.
Basketball.
So that's going to be tough. Yeah, in basketball.
Yeah. I will just say I think that they have the firepower. I don't think that they have anybody that makes it easy for that firepower. They got a bunch of guys that can go out and create shots and are tough shot makers. And the problem is, if you're a team with a bunch of tough shot makers and you don't have anyone that can give you like easy buckets, then you run into a situation where you can kind of have a night like they did tonight. I don't know if you could play better than Texas did against that Tennessee defense with the way that they play, and you took a loss at home.
All right, let's move on. Number 3, Iowa State in Lubbock to take on Texas Tech. This was one of the best games of the day. In fact, it's right up there. I mean, if you pick this as the best game, you'd get no argument from me. I watched this game. I loved it. This is the Joshua Jefferson game. This is why you brought Joshua Jefferson to Iowa State.
Yeah.
The execution to close out regulation. I wish we could show it on here. You know, it was the play that TJ Otzelberger drew up, down 2. A lot of road teams go for the win. He said, you know what, Taman Lipsey, take this basketball. He dished it off to Jefferson with just over a second left. Jefferson gets the shot off, forces overtime. Jefferson hits 2 massive free throws. Iowa State wins 85-84 over Texas Tech. The Cyclones, Rob, are 14-1. So let's give them their flowers about where they stand here. And this feels like, Rob, a game that maybe last year they lose. But because of the acquisition of Jefferson, because of the offensive pieces, they scored 85 points in Lubbock, and they won in Lubbock. A very hard place to win.
Yeah, they have really, really good guards. And I know that they got taken to overtime. I know it's Texas Tech. Texas Tech is a good team. They don't look like it on paper right now, but Texas Tech is a really, really damn good team. They're really well coached. I feel like this Iowa State team is the team that's flying the most under the radar right now in terms of, you know, we're going to talk about Kansas here in a little bit, and we talked a lot about Kentucky, and, you know, we're the top of the SEC is going to get beat to death by the time we get to the middle of February, right? Because the league is so good, and Houston is Houston. We always got to talk about Houston because they're Houston. UConn has won back-to-back national championships, so they're going to find their way into every conversation that we have when it comes to, you know, the best teams and teams that can make a run and this, that, and the third. Marquette's got an All-American potential player of the year candidate. Illinois has been awesome to see them kind of grow into the team that they are right now. And I feel like Iowa State's going to be that team that kind of slides by, that doesn't really get noticed. It's not really sexy the way that they play, but they got really good guards. They got guys that can operate in the post. They still defend as well as anybody in college basketball, despite the fact that they've leaned more into, you know, we got to be more than just a team that can muck it up defensively. And they're sitting here, top 5 in America, top 5 in the metrics. Curtis Jones is a game changer off the bench. Keyshawn Gilbert has been one of the best players in the country. And by the way, T.O., they still haven't really gotten Taman Lipsey playing the way that he was at the end of last season. He's their best player. He's their superstar. I think this Iowa State team is very, very good. And it was fun to see him go out and find it. They were down by 13 in Lubbock. 13. And they found a way to win this game, man. That was awesome to see. Good for them.
I'm going to be honest. I was really down on their non-conference schedule last year and not so much this year. Like, you go down to Maui and you play as well as you did. You got no complaints from me. So, like, that's a big piece of this whole thing too. They didn't game anything this year. They've played their ass off in the non-conference. So they moved down. They're able to go down to Lubbock, get a win. That's huge. Terrific pass and finish. I love the addition of Josh Jefferson, what he's been able to do. Just providing them some athleticism in the front court. He's a really nice player. Sometimes it takes him a little while to get adjusted. Otzelberger and company have expedited that process. He's turned into a good player. Number 6 on offense. On offensive efficiency, top 10 defensive efficiency. Cyclones are really good.
They got Curtis Jones from Buffalo. Jones from Buffalo. You know, not a winning program. And he came in there last year. He was okay. He's become a great guard. Like, he's become one of the best guards in the Big 12. He averages over 16 per game, you know, for a team that's really good defensively. But I think it's the evolution of Jones as a bucket getter, and to be able to bring in Jefferson and Keyshawn Gilbert's so steady. They're a really special team. And what Otzelberger's done, I think, is as good next to Dan Hurley over the last couple of years as any coaching job in America. I put Hurley 1 and I put Otzelberg 2 or 3. Like, he has been that good. All right, let's continue. Let's get back to the SEC. Because Arkansas welcomes in Florida. Arkansas starts the game on a 13-2 run. Florida wins this game 71-63. John Calipari, after the game, was shocked that his team went 2 for 12 on layups. 2 for 12. Florida, they go to 15-1. What a week for them. They beat up on Tennessee. But the concern here is, Rob, Arkansas is 0-3 in the SEC. They're 11-5 overall. You know, Eric Musselman took them to multiple Elite Eights. He made the Sweet 16 a thing there. Yes, last year was hot garbage. and a meltdown. But the standard had been changed there. How concerning is this for the people in Fayetteville?
I would be really concerned if I was an Arkansas fan. Your next two games are on the road, right? We've seen how the road goes in the SEC. I know it's LSU. I know it's Missouri. I know they aren't sitting here. We're not talking about them as potential Final Four teams the way we're talking about Florida or Tennessee or even Ole Miss to a point, but it's still the road in SEC play, man. You ever seen what Missouri is like when they got a big game in town? Like the Antlers go nuts, man. It's loud in there. So they got to get these two games. Like I don't think that there's any way around. Like you have to go win these two games on the road. And when you are in a spot where you're saying you have to win games on the road in league play, that's not where you want to be. And we've kind of beat this horse into the ground. But I will say, it's not surprising to me, T.O., that this is the way that this is kind of played out, right? Like the writing was all on the wall at the end of Kentucky. Here's my question to you, and you kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but like how much of what happened towards the end of Cal's career did we kind of overlook some things because of the fact that it was Cal, because of the fact that it was Kentucky, and because of the fact that they had a certain level of past success there? And I think that's the point that I've gotten to with Arkansas and where they are. I don't know if this team's good enough to make it. Well, they're good enough. I don't know if this team's going to make a tournament, man. I think that's where I'm at with them right now. It's a good thing they got that comeback win against Michigan, because if they didn't do that, there would be a nothing on this resume. Their best win other than Michigan is Lipscomb at home.
It's a brutal situation. And my question in that text message, and by the way, there's nothing sacred anymore in our text message groups. That's number one. Number two, my biggest question, my biggest question is this: like, how much did the Kentucky brand buoy Calipari into these NCAA tournament bids? Because if he was at Kentucky right now with this exact same record, with these exact same losses, they'd be talking about Kentucky firmly on the bubble, 8-9 seed, because of the brand. Kind of similar to what we're seeing with North Carolina. Because of the brand, they would be on the bubble. Now, is Arkansas still in the bubble? Some people would say, yeah. I don't think so, guys. Like right now, they're outside looking in. There's a lot of Tyson's chicken money looking from the outside of the fence.
The win over Michigan's a really good win. I mean, DeCourcy had them last 4 in. Lenardi has them last 8 in. So I guess with this, they're right around.
I guess
there.
This is the this is the bubble, but that was before this. That was before this.
The bubble. I know. Well,
that was before this.
How many teams are going to be Florida?
And then LSU, too, lost 3 in a row, SEC play. He's not out coaching anybody.
He lost his fastball a while ago.
True. Game got complicated. It became 5 out. He couldn't beat you up, and he couldn't clog the lane. He can't clog the lane anymore. So, therefore, you're going to struggle a little bit. I think the Kentucky brand
thing is John Calipari leaving Kentucky was the best thing that could have happened for Kentucky.
Correct. Mm-hmm. But what I'm also saying is they made the NCAA tournament, and that's all well and good. But over the last 3 years, 26-8, 22-12, 23-10. Right now, guys, I want to say they're not projected to do all that well, 18-13. And they might squeeze out a couple. They get 20 wins, and he was at Kentucky. He's getting in the tournament. He gets to 20 wins now. I don't know.
Oh,
he gets if that's even going to happen.
Terrence, if he gets 20 wins in this version of the SEC, they're going to make the NCAA tournament.
Well, I just don't think they get to 20 wins.
Yeah, I don't think they get to 20 wins. Yeah.
No, they're not going to. But 18 or 19 might be enough. But here's the thing, Rob. The standard at Arkansas is not to make the tournament. They want to make the Final Four. They're spending like that.
Here's the thing. When you have I don't want to throw Musselman under the bus because he made runs, but when Eric Musselman is your coach, getting to the tournament, winning a couple games, the Sweet 16, couple Elite Eights, you're probably outperforming what your expectations are, right?
They hadn't done that since Nolan Richardson. They hadn't done that since Nolan Richardson.
But when you're hiring John Calipari after what Eric Musselman did, right? When this is the guy you're bringing in and the money you're spending on him as a coach, and you're hiring the guy from Kentucky, you're hiring Kentucky's coach, and you're dropping all this money on the players coming. You're not doing it to get a bid. You're doing it to have a championship contender, not to sit there and be on the bubble. Like that's where they're running into issues right now, in my mind.
They can't shoot. They shot 3 of 16 from 3.
Can't make layups. Can't shoot threes, can't make layups. Look, John Calipari is bringing the midi back, baby. He's bringing the midi back.
It's midnight. We got a lot to get to here in the next 20 minutes and change, so let's turn to the Big Ten. Kasparas Giacochonis out for Illinois. But I think we all would have agreed, yes, okay, he's missing, but they're in Champaign. They'll probably find a way against a USC team that has struggled as of late, had lost by 13 earlier in the week to Indiana. We're going to get to Indiana. USC goes into Champaign and beats Illinois 82-72, must-bust with a 10-point win. Des Claude goes for 31, but Illinois, no Giacochonis. They give up 82. They weren't the same team without him. They went 7 of 32 from three-point land. Rob, your reaction to an eyebrow-raising result in the Big Ten?
I think it was coming without KJ on the floor. They have a lot of guys that are really good pieces, role players. I think is probably not a strong enough term, but really good pieces. Kai Boswell's a good piece. Trey White's a good piece. Ivasic is a good piece. That are all lifted by having the guy that can kind of create shots for them and can be the number one option on a scouting report, right? So I think that kind of caught up with them a little bit. And then what happened in the actual game itself, they decided they were going to, they tried out Ben Humrickus on Des Claude, and it didn't work on the first couple of possessions. So hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put these smaller guys on them and try to body up and get physical with Des Claude, who's not a very good shooter. And it just completely backfired because he got to the rim and got wherever he wanted. So I didn't love their defensive game plan. I just think it's one of those games, man. It's the Big Ten. You didn't have your best player. You let their best player get going, and you took a loss. I still think that Illinois' ceiling is as high as any team in college basketball at this point. And I'm not off the bandwagon at all. Just this game, not having your best player really showed up in this one.
Big thing too, 15 turnovers, and Boswell had 6 of them. Mm-hmm. That there's no bigger point than that one. Boswell had 6 turnovers. They end up with 15 on the night, and he's the guy that, quite frankly, guys, when everything goes awry, it gets to him. Mm-hmm. It gets to him, and he's able to figure it out for the Illini. He wasn't there tonight. How do you manufacture stuff when there's nothing to be had? That's where Giacochonis has been so good, because he's big enough, he's physical enough, he's good enough off the bounce to where when there's nothing available, he can create something just because he's so talented. They don't have him tonight. You saw how vital a piece he is to this Illini team. I think that stands out above everything else.
Yep. Yeah, they tried to steal one. They tried to steal one before they brought him back, with the forearm thing. It's not serious. They tried to steal one so that he would be healthy for at Indiana, at Michigan State, Maryland, that 3-game run, and they kind of got caught with their hand in they're caught with their hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah, forearm injury and a second game miss for Giacochonis. Not a very busy day in the Big Ten. They're going to own a lot of Sundays in the sport. 4 games tomorrow. Michigan State is at Northwestern. That'll be interesting. In Evanston, Nebraska at Purdue, Washington at Michigan. Oregon is out in Happy Valley to take on Penn State as Oregon continues a long the cross-country road swing. That'll be tomorrow afternoon. Let's turn to the Big 12. The Kansas Jayhawks. Rob Doster wants to talk about them because Kansas all of a sudden, has won 3 in a row to kick off 2025 after the New Year's Eve disaster against West Virginia at home. Today, Kansas wins 54-40. They held Cincinnati to 40 points in this game and 15 in the second half. Rob, how is that happening?
Well, they decided they wanted to start playing defense, I think is the simple answer here. They gave up 48 points against UCF. They gave up 55 points against Arizona State. They gave up 15 in the second half. They won by 14 on the road in Big 12 play while shooting 2 for 21 from 3. Like, so when I said I wanted to talk about him, I want to like talk this through. Like, what are we seeing here? Right? Is this something where we should buy into it? They move Shaquille Moore into the starting lineup before the UCF game, and they become one of the best defensive teams in college basketball over the court. The best team in those 3 games in college basketball, the best defensive team. Is this real? Is this something where once they kind of get figured out with him in the lineup? Like, I have no idea what to make of this, but I wanted to talk about it because I think it's important that when you have a Kansas team, because it's Kansas and it's Bill Self, and they have talent on that roster, even if the pieces don't necessarily fit, I feel like there is something happening there. And maybe they're just going to be one of these teams that tries to out Houston. We're going to go out there and try to win these games 55-45 every single night. Maybe not the prettiest thing in the world, but that's 3 games in a row where they have looked utterly impenetrable defensively, and it's all been with Shaquille Moore in the starting lineup.
Good use of impenetrable at 12:05 a.m. Eastern time. I mean, Shaquille Moore's changed things up. You know what I think, T.O., and maybe I'm misreading it. Tell me if I am. I think Bill Self had the worst New Year's Eve known to man and said, either some of my guys are going to start defending or else you're not going to play. I got to play hardball with this team because I am not taking another embarrassing early X in the NCAA tournament. We've got a freaking guard. Because, Terrence, you only give up 15 points the second half in a Big 12 road game. That's impressive, man.
Guys, 40 points, man. Like Cincinnati. Dude, at home, you're getting booed as you're walking off the court. 0-4 in Big 12 play. A lot of promise coming into this season. That team has a lot of athletes, a lot of length, and a lot of talent. And here we are, 0-4, scoring a 40 ball. Cooper Flagg outscored you today. You got to figure something out for your guys.
Oh, my. What a stat by
Cooper
you.
Flagg. Yeah, Cooper Flagg outscored you today. Here's the thing. Hunter Dickinson said this after the game, and I love this quote. He goes, man, if we're not playing very good, let's just make the other team play less good than we're playing bad. Or so I can't remember what it was, but it was so good. It was just like, man, if you're not playing good, let's make sure the other team doesn't play as good as we are or something. But it was great because you know what? Kansas has picked up a new identity starting 2025. And it's like, we're going to out-tough you. You're going to have a hard time scoring on us. And if we score a bunch, so be it. But if we don't, we're going to hold you to 40. And if you can do that consistently, you're going to win a lot of freaking games. Cincinnati's the point-a-minute team. That's crazy. And Kansas made that happen.
Yeah, the thing about Kansas is there's always going to be offensive issues. And I feel like I'm beating the same drum, but there's always going to be offensive issues when your point guard can't really shoot, your 4-man can't really shoot, and the best shooter that you have in your best 5 ends up being your 5-man, whose best role is as like the low post guy, where you need shooters to space it out, right? They don't shoot threes very well. They don't have much floor spacing. They don't draw fouls. You're never going to be an elite, typical Bill Self offense with that. But you got an elite defender in DeJuan Harris. You got an elite defender in KJ Adams. You got a dude that is as good at just kind of taking up space in the paint as in, like, Hunter Dickinson is 7'2" and 260 pounds. Like, that is a large human being. So maybe put another athlete out there with Shaquille Moore and just find a way to, win things defensively. It's worked in the Big 12 before. Houston's done it over and over again. The team that Kansas plays on Wednesday, Iowa State, has done it for the last 3 years. Maybe it's just Big 12 basketball. That's how you got to win. Make it as ugly as possible.
Let's keep it rolling here. Let's go to the ACC. From here, after this team, we're gonna play a little ping pong here because we've still got a couple teams that we got to talk about. 6-0, the Duke Blue Devils are at the top of the ACC. There's a tie for second. The Louisville Cardinals and the Clemson Tigers at 5-1.
Mm-hmm.
Louisville is 5-1. Louisville is 5-1 in the ACC after going to Pitt and winning 82-78. In this game, Rain Smith hit 7 3-pointers. He fouled Pat Kelsey from Charleston. Louisville hit 13 triples. They had 4 in double figures. Chucky Hepburn had 15, 7, and 7. Cardinals, a winner over Pitt. T.O., we all agree they're a tournament team. Has Louisville figured something else out when you're watching them?
So somebody called Goodman and tell him there were no 13s on Pitt, 13-year-olds on Pitt, first of all. Second of all, like what Louisville had to do to start out conference play after the new year You had to get North Carolina because that win holds some water. You had to get Clemson. You had to get Pitt. You get all three, and then you wedge in a Virginia ass whooping that I was there for, and it's like this team is a legit tournament team. And a couple of things happen. So they start really playing well down at the Battle for Atlantis. They beat Indiana, not just beat them, they thumped them. They beat West Virginia in overtime, and then they lost to Oklahoma by 5. That's all well and good. But here's what happened. They lost Case and Pryor. They lost Corin Johnson. Okay, that it takes them a little bit of time to adjust. So they lose Case and Pryor at the end of Oklahoma. They play Ole Miss next. They play Duke after that. That's 2 really tough teams, especially when you're kind of relearning roles. Javon Hadley's completely changed the way he's played since Case and Pryor went out. So Louisville, as long as they know who they are and what they're supposed to be, those guys are really tough, and they're a really tough out. They were 5-1 until Case and Pryor goes down. After those next 2 games, what are they, 7-1 since they were able to reallocate their roles and find out what they're doing? And Rain Smith is able to knock down shots at a crazy rate. This team is old. They don't understand how to play with each other. James Scott is a menace defensively, and Javon Hadley's turned into a different type of animal with added role and role definition from a go-to player standpoint. Chucky Hepburn's playing as well as anybody in college basketball at the point guard spot. Louisville's very, very good. And for them to get those 3 wins that they desperately needed, they're in position to make the NCAA tournament. Now, this is where it gets tricky in the ACC. They got Syracuse at Syracuse. Syracuse ranked $1.15 or $1.13 in KenPom. That's a non-lose must. Got Virginia at home, a non-lose must. Then you have SMU away, almost forgivable. But like this is where to me, guys, it gets even trickier because the ACC did so poorly in the non-conference. This is where it gets tricky for Louisville moving forward.
Yeah. I think they're ready to make a run, though. Like I think they're already making a run, but I think that they're ready to reel off like 4, 5, 6 more in a row. I think that this team has figured it out, and Rain Smith shooting the way that he's shooting, Javon Hadley playing the way that he's playing. We saw Fats Edwards carry the team for a while. Chucky Hepburn, you've been saying it over and over to Yo, playing like the best point guard in America. Like they've figured this thing out, and now they get the schedule opens up a little bit. The big thing is going to be we talked with Rain about this last week on the ACC podcast. That was a very, very important week for them. They've gotten through it. They won 4 in a row. And then now you have Syracuse, and you know what Syracuse has done, and you can kind of see where they are in the standings. You're going on the road. It's cold up there. You're going to the Dome. It's an earlier tip. There's going to be however many thousand people in there. There's going to be a lot of empty space in there as well. So you can't slip up. Like those are the ones where you have to show up, even if you have to manufacture the energy yourself. And I just don't see a Pat Kelsey team having a problem manufacturing energy themselves. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a run reeled off here by Louisville.
Let's stick in the ACC rivalry game. North Carolina and NC State. And Terrence Oglesby, Jalen Washington had the last word, both with the game-winning shot and the game-winning block. Carolina has won 2 ACC road games, one in South Bend and one today over the Wolfpack by a combined 3 points over the last 2 Saturdays. Just win, baby, I guess, Tio.
Just win. That's where you're at if you're Carolina. Just win. And if it's close, so be it. But you alluded to it. This is where I think this game could be more meaningful for the Tar Heels. They've struggled in the front court all season long. They finally got some production from Jalen Washington, who ends up with 11 points, 12 boards, game-winning dunk at the end. Terrific pass by Cadeau. Game-winning dunk. Game-saving block on the other end where he's talking a little shit on his way back down the court. Here's the thing. Like, that's the kind of game that can catapult a guy that struggled a little bit with confidence into maybe not necessarily greatness, but it could catapult him into solid productivity for the rest of the year. So very meaningful for the Tar Heels that Jalen Washington was able to pull those 2 things off.
Yep. He also had an assist to Ian Jackson on the possession before the dunk that put North Carolina back in the lead. Like he had 3 huge plays down the stretch, confidence boosting plays. North Carolina's schedule coming up: Cal at home, Stanford at home, then you're at Wake, BC at home, at Pitt, at Duke. I think you got to win 5 of those 6 to really have a chance. Because the worst thing that's happened in North Carolina over the course of the last 2 weeks is that UCLA has fallen off a cliff and Dayton has fallen off a cliff right there with them. So all of a sudden, the 2 wins that were kind of like, the 2 wins that were the tent poles of your resume now don't look anywhere near. Dayton might not even be a quad 1 win when it's all said and done. UCLA probably will be, but who knows what's going to, like UCLA, it looks, that's not a great situation. And that's before you consider everything that the people, the human beings in that program are dealing with their homes and their livelihood and everything going on with the fires in and around Westwood. So that's, to me, if I'm North Carolina, that's, you got to win.
So you have to win the next 5 in a row because you're not winning at Duke.
Well, I'm saying you got to win like 5 of the 6. And I wouldn't be surprised if they won at Duke. Like, that's just how this rivalry goes. Like, as soon as you think it's over, like one of these teams wins on the other one's home court. Like, it's just, I would be
shocked if they won at Duke. If they won a Cameron this year, I'd be surprised. Terrence,
look,
I'd be.
Let's just say I'm not going to be wagering too much money on BetMGM by it, but there is nothing that will happen in that rivalry that will surprise me. Not anymore.
I would. That rivalry games are weird, especially that one. That's kind of my only caveat there.
We got a couple minutes left here. Let's go to the Big East. Down in D.C., it was really cool to see over 17,000 people at Capital One Arena. It has been a long, long time, and there were some sounds in that building early on that you have not heard. But UConn sent a message to Georgetown, sent a message to everybody else. The Huskies responded from their narrow loss to Villanova. They beat Georgetown 68-60. It was not that close. Alex Caravan found a shot, 19 points. Solo Ball had 15, and Connecticut finds a way. Rob, what'd you see?
Caravan was back, man. They got him going. It was a little herky-jerky at the start. There was one play where he dropped a pass that was thrown right at him. He missed a wide-open layup at one point, but he knocked down a 3. He had a block on the other end. He had a couple of deep threes. Like, he needed to find a way to get going after the way that the game at Villanova ended. It had been like the 3rd straight game where he hadn't played all that well. But to me, like the thing that I kind of circled about this game, guys, is you got Jaden Ross going a little bit off the bench. I thought Aiden Mahaney played his best defensive game that he's played for UConn yet, and he also had 6 points and a couple assists and played pretty well offensively. You got Ahmad Noel playing some minutes. Like, I just think you need some help in that backcourt. Like, the biggest thing that they're going to need is to be able to have 1 or 2 of those bench guys be able to be someone that can give you 15 minutes, no question, every single night, that where you're going to be quality minutes once you get Liam McNeely back. That's going to be the key to them being able to kind of hit their ceiling this season. And we've seen Jalen Stewart on Wednesday was great. Jaden Ross played his best game of the Big East season today. Aiden Mahaney has consistently gotten better, and it's to the point where I'm no longer concerned about whether or not he can compete at this level. Now it's about how can you get him maximizing what he can do. So big win, needed that bounce back.
I'm going to keep this one short and say I'm so impressed with how Solo Ball has continued to improve over his time at UConn. And then he's scored double figures in all but 2 games this season. He's putting it on the deck more. He's able to knock down shots, shooting at a crazy rate. Their patience is turning into production, and it's pretty cool to see. I've turned into a fan of his.
Yeah, Malik Mack shot 3 of 12 in this game. That's because of UConn's defense. Ahmad Noel, by the way, keeps helping UConn in different doses. He's learning on the fly, and nothing's perfect, but he's a freshman who's helping, and he's serving a role. Jaden Epps is not healthy. You could tell. He only played 14 minutes. Mm-hmm. He was limited in this game. But to me, the goal had to be you can't let Mack get cooking, and they didn't, and he didn't get enough help on the perimeter beyond that, although Micah Peavy is trying his best. For Georgetown, this was a critical 3-game stretch. Marquette, UConn, Tuesday night at St. John's of the Garden. Georgetown's going to be desperate in that game against the Red Storm. They fall to 12-4. UConn, they just keep on rolling. And if you look at the Big East standings, Marquette is 5-0, UConn is 5-1, and the St. John's Red Storm are 5-1 in the Big East. The Johnnies are 5-1 in the Big East for the first time since 2000-2001. This is now for real. It might have taken a year longer than we thought because we thought St. John's would be this good last year, but they are deeper. They're more versatile. RJ Lewis is another year older and fully healthy. Zuby Ejiofor is the most improved player in the Big East. That was a great college basketball game tonight at the Garden. 80-68, the Red Storm win. In a game where Davon Smith separated his shoulder. He should be okay. He might miss a game. But St. John's, their last 5 played the last 8 minutes of the game. More than anything, though, strategy aside for a moment, Rob, over 18,000 people were at Madison Square Garden tonight for a college basketball game involving St. John's University and Villanova University. If you said that to someone 5 years ago, they would have said, yeah, in 1985. No, in 2025. That happened tonight. That was electric.
Mm-hmm. And you had 15,000 in Capital One Arena for UConn Georgetown. Like the thing that we said over and over again, and not to change the subject, but the thing that we said over and over again when Rick Pitino was hired and when Ed Cooley got hired by Georgetown in like the span of a week was that the two brands in the two biggest and most important cities in the Big East all of a sudden had coaches that were going to be able to get them back to the point where they could sell out the arenas that they wanted to play in. So it's cool to see that's what Big East basketball is supposed to feel like. I thought it was actually, it ended up being a 12-point game. This wasn't a double-digit win by St. John's, if that makes sense. Like Villanova had the lead with like 3 minutes left. Wooga Poplar was awesome. Eric Dixon played really, really well. I thought that RJ Lewis was, he just kind of took that game over in the second half and put it on his back. I've been disappointed, fan. I don't know if you guys disagree with me. I've been kind of disappointed with what Kadari Richmond has been this season, and I don't think I should have been because this is like who he has been throughout his entire career. I just thought that you gave him, you put him in a Rick Pitino program, and he was going to be able to find a way to make this thing work better than it has been.
Terrence, any thoughts? You want to go to toast?
St. John's is really good. I want to go to toast, and I'll let you two toast first.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It's fun to see. That was fun to watch tonight. The whole day was fun. I will go first. I will lead off here. The longest winning streak in the country ended tonight in San Diego. In the Big West, UC Irvine beat UC San Diego. The Tritons go down in a major Big West matchup. Both are top 65 in KenPom. Both are going to be interesting, Cinderella candidates come March. Iowa State now holds the longest winning streak in men's basketball. I'm going to toast 2 others very quickly because so much happened today. Cal State Bakersfield's Jamel Jones. Listen to this one. Jamel Jones. You get a toast. Here's why. Jamel Jones had 48 points off the bench. He came off the bench and scored 48. The Roadrunners were down 23. They came back from 23 down. I need to watch this game on Synergy.
That's a Jamal Crawford. That's a Jamal Crawford.
And beat Cal State Northridge. Jared Burson says it's the highest single game scoring performance off the bench against Division I opponent over the last 30 seasons. My last toast is to Brian Earl and William and Mary, who are the only team in our proud partner, the Coastal Athletic Association. They're the only team that's unbeaten in conference play. Charleston lost at Monmouth today. William and Mary, you get a toast. You haven't been atop the CAA in a long, long time. Brian Earl was a hell of a hire coming over from Cornell. In Williamsburg, they're talking about basketball. It's been a little while. Rob, who are you toasting?
I'm going to go with Ian Martinez, who hit the game-winning 4-point play at the end of what was maybe the most exciting game in a insane day of college basketball. The end of that Boise State-Utah State game is what everybody wants out of Mountain West late night stuff. Look, I'm gonna have to talk with the people over at the Mountain West Conference because although I understand it's important to get your games on CBS at 1:00 and on network television, Colorado State and UNLV at 4:00 on CBS Sports Network, I understand the exposure angle of it. Okay,
we want a game.
Mountain West basketball. When it's nighttime, when these cocktails have started flowing a little bit, when it's after midnight, that's when Mountain West basketball is supposed to happen. And that's when you get games like Utah State and Boise State. So shout out to Ian Martinez. Utah State 6-0 in the Mountain West. So is New Mexico. They beat up on San Diego State in T.O.'s favorite building in America, the Pitt.
They meet in a couple weeks, by the way. Early February. That's going to be amazing. I think Feb 1 they meet.
Bigger game. All right. My toast is going somewhere different today. That's to our great country, America. Because listen to this. And I mentioned it to you gentlemen earlier. North Korea banned the hot dog.
Oh,
And today, because North Korea banned the hot dog, you know what I did? I went to this place. It was called Double Dogs. It's a little sports bar down. And I had a chili dog. And I'm not saying that chili dog agreed with me or not. But damn it, God bless America. God bless the hot dog. And Kim Jong-un does not want his people to win. That is a fact. You can't just take away a hot dog. That is insanity. It's ridiculous. Toast to the American people and our hot dogs. I'll take that any day of the week. God bless America.
well,
God bless hot dogs.
Yeah, I'll toast to that. I'll tell you what, our network, we have a lot of people who love us. We have some adversaries. I didn't think that Kim Jong-un would be an adversary of the Field of 68 Media Network, but Kim, the only Kim that we worship and know is Kim English, not your ass.
Hey, hold on. Anybody who bans hot dogs ain't no friend of mine to begin with. So I'm not worried about anything Kim Jong's talking about. Tell Kim to take it on home.
And you can catch Terrence on Meet the Press tomorrow morning. That's going to do it for us. This was an outstanding Saturday and a tremendous Saturday Super Show. Are we back tomorrow or are we off tomorrow? Tell me.
Tomorrow at 7 p.m. Fanta. And I just would like to say this was pointed out by our wonderful producer, Dagan Hughes. T.O. just toasted wieners on Field of 68 After Dark.
He sure did.
Toasted America and the greatness of hot dogs.
That's right. You can absolutely toast that, Terrence Oglesby. You can absolutely toast that. As the doctor looked at my wife and I earlier this week, and I'll toast to wieners too, I guess, because the doctor looked at my wife. The doctor looked at my wife and I, and she said, "Well, he's not hesitant about showing us his wiener." I said, "Okay, thank you, Doc. I'm glad that he is a boy, and I guess
he's a Fanta. He's a Fanta.
Yeah. I'm glad that.
Hey, I think we need to change. I think we need to change T.O.'s name in our phones to Terrence Oglesby.
It's Oglesby, but it's
Oglesby.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to do it for us. For T.O., for Rob, I'm John. Enjoy a hot dog tomorrow.
Toast a hot dog?
You sure can.
You
sure can. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to After Dark. You grab yourself an Oscar Mayer.